if Trayvon Martin was of age and armed, could he have stood his ground on that sidewalk? And do we actually think that he would have been justified in shooting Mr. Zimmerman, who had followed him in a car, because he felt threatened? And if the answer to that question is at least ambiguous, then it seems to me that we might want to examine those kinds of laws.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, in the aftermath of the Zimmerman acquittal, we've talked about many questions, including the ones at this table, questions about race and justice, but also a conversation about guns. And once again, it percolates. Obviously, much different conversations than what we saw after Newtown. But nonetheless, the questions that arise out of the fact, should that guy, Zimmerman, been walking around with a concealed gun on his hip and have laws in the state of Florida, and by the way, as Andrew will tell you, not just Florida, in many states across this country, that basically gives him the blank check to decide and give him discretion when he should or shouldn't feel that he can use it to, quote unquote, stand his ground. Is that the best that we can do as a country in terms of our gun laws, and as a nation more than any other, obviously the most violent country in this planet here when it comes to those type of gun deaths that, again, have no distinguishing characteristics for color or even by region. We've seen these tragedies happen in rural areas, suburban areas, and yes, cities. So we keep the conversation going on that front. And again, I'm going to start with you, Bishop. And how many tragedies have you seen in your community where the commonality is a young kid's life snuffed out, and again, the person at the other end of the gun, either another kid or another person, where it would have been maybe a fist fight when we were kids, but now a kid's going to the morgue?
I have seen a number of African American children be gunned down for reasons that don't make sense, and I do think that. I do believe that the Constitution is correct, that we should be, American citizens should have the ability to bear arms. I do believe that we should. However, I also do believe that arms should not be placed in the hands of people who are reckless and who are insensitive. And you look at Chicago. Chicago is a perfect example of guns in the wrong hands. But I really don't blame the people who's doing the shooting as much as I blame how guns are now finding themselves, trafficking themselves in the United States, in America, and going to the urban cities.
You're going to see something in a few minutes about just how easy it is to get our hands up. But Andrew, I was dead wrong after Newtown when I said this will be a turning point in the American dialogue and in Washington. So many of us have little kids, and we all put ourselves as parents as if we were running to that school that day to find out if our kid was alive, and everybody viscerally could feel it.
Yes. I cried.
You know, and that day, the conversations I had to have with my 3 kids that night, and then you just, the senselessness of it all. But Andrew, I was wrong that it would change anything, because if anything, as you said, state laws across this country made it easier to get guns, made it easier to carry guns without a permit, made it easier, you know, for people to use those guns, as we've seen. But part of me says that there is just a weariness of the public, where they're like, all right, we're not going to take away, we're not going to do what they originally wanted to. Maybe there won't be assault weapons, maybe there won't be ammo clips, but we can get a background check, for crying out loud. We can do better than stand your ground. I mean, am I being naive here, or don't you think that the public has had it enough to say we can't have our guns, but we can have some kind of check and balance?
Unfortunately, I think you are being a little bit naive. First of all, in the aftermath of Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, that, from a political standpoint, just adding up the numbers, there's not enough movement in enough places that it's going to change laws nationally or even statewide. You're seeing some movements in places like New York and Connecticut where there are people who feel that way. But this is going to change the law in Florida. The Governor Scott came down and said, absolutely, we're not going to re-examine stand your ground or similar laws. People are doubling down on it. And part of it, and I've said this before, is that it's so ingrained in the American culture. I mean, you're a man of peace. Right. And you teach church doctrine, and you're saying I believe in the right that everybody should have the right to a firearm, even though people don't use them responsibly. And at some point, the fact that people don't use them responsibly has to encroach on the right.
You know what? Maybe this might change some minds here. And you talked about the ease and the access to guns,
Yes.
okay? We saw what's playing out in Chicago, and it's not just Chicago here, the tragedies of the amount of lives, especially young lives, snuffed out here. Well, to see just how easy it is for the bad guys, we can all agree, bad guys shouldn't get guns. Well, if you agree with that, and hopefully if you have a pulse, you do, take a look at an undercover team from National Geographic. They found private sellers online who are willing to sell them assault weapons, sniper rifles with enough ammo to start your own war. Mariana Van Zeller reports.
For our first target, we aim high, an AK-47.
What I'll do is just punch in the word AK-47 under keywords, and then we'll see what comes up. Now this one has a phone number.
Hi, Nick. I'm calling about the ad. Is it still for sale?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I have $750 in cash. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. Can we meet now?
How's it going?
Cool. Thanks so much.
Now, I'm heading to a fast food parking lot to make a cash deal for an assault rifle.
How you doing, man?
Hi.
You doing? Take a look at it, can. I bet, please. Thank you. This is good to go for me. 750? Yeah. All right.
If it's that easy to buy an AK-47 from a fast food parking lot, we need to aim even bigger. We're going to try and buy a .50 caliber sniper rifle. A weapon so powerful that the U.S. military uses it to penetrate concrete walls and pierce steel. It's a gun that could do an unthinkable amount of damage if it fell into the wrong hands.
So from here, should be about 3 to 5 minutes to his house.
We found someone who claims to be selling one in just a couple of minutes online.
How you guys doing? Yeah, thank you so much for meeting me.
I'm Mike.
Mike, I'm Jess.
Hi, how are you?
This round right here is $15 a piece to fire this one. You get in 11 boxes with 12 rounds a piece. So you have a lot of firepower to start your own war.
What did he say?
You have enough
Thank you
rounds
so
to
much,
start
my
your
friend.
own
I
war.
appreciate it.
You were ready for war, he said. So it's a war gun.
It's a war gun. All you need is a finger. Pull the trigger.
For ABC News, Mariana Van Zeller, Phoenix, Arizona.
We're going to talk about that right after this.